The Magicians Podcast, brought to you in association with the Magic Circle.
Welcome everybody to the Magicians Podcast. I'm Richard Young. Thanks for pressing the download button. Much appreciated. I'm sure you have a few magician friends out there who don't know about this podcast. Please do mention it to them the next time you see them, or perhaps email them a link. There's now a huge archive of information here on all the various episodes. It would be great to share it with as many people as possible. It's completely free, so why not send them a link? If you don't follow us on Twitter, please do it now. We are at Magician Podcast. No S on the Magician. If you're on Facebook, you can give our Facebook page there a like. Just search for The Magicians Podcast. My guest today is Laura London. She is a close-up magician based in, well, London, of course. She is, without question, one of the highest profile in-demand magicians in the capital, and she currently has a residency at the Hippodrome Casino. Well, the Hippodrome is where I went and met Laura. I actually went and met her after she finished work. This is now the latest recorded podcast that I've recorded. It was recorded at nearly 1 o'clock in the morning. Laura was wide awake though and on great form. And I hope you like my questions. Here she is then, Miss Laura London. We've started, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
this told me about that.
You are the latest podcast recording. Because it's now 5 to 1 in the morning. I get the impression you're a bit of a night owl, though. Is that fair to say?
Yes, no, that's very true. I tend to get up a little bit later than most people and definitely go to bed later than most people, for sure. Yeah.
Fair enough. This is an amazing gig you've got here.
Oh.
You tell us a little bit about the gig, because I know you're here like 3 nights a week. And
Oh, where we are now?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at the Hippodrome Casino in London. It's it's an incredible gig. I love it here. We're like a family here. All the staff, all the managers, the owners are great friends of mine, and it's wonderful because of the history of the place, especially. You know, to be in a place where Houdini performed and so many other people as well, not just magic people, but you know, even Judy Garland was here. You know,
Yeah.
It's an incredible for me thing to be a part of. So
I've obviously been looking into sort of you and what you've been doing and stuff like that. I want to touch on something because I think I will be ignoring it. Now, I know that you never advertise that you're a female magician. You're quite cautious of that. You're a magician, that's the way you say it. But let's be honest, you are a female magician, and you're rare. You're a rare breed. There's not many of female magicians, are there? Has it, in your opinion, has it helped you, hindered you? Has it been a bit of both at times, or?
it's certainly not hindered me, I don't think. I think when I first started at magic, it was a little bit harder, not because I was a female, but a lot to do with not knowing where to go and who to see and how to learn magic. And I guess that was my biggest thing at the very, very beginning. And being a female, I don't think that really changed it, but equally I was in a position where I wasn't necessarily surrounded by the guys that did magic, and the main community were of course guys, you know.
Yeah. So
that was a bit of a challenge, you know. And one of the first things I did as soon as I could was at the age of 18 become a member of the Magic Circle. And at the time I did it, and it took me a little while to fit in, but
Right.
That wasn't because I was a female. I think that was more because I was a little bit alternative and a little bit out there for some of the people that were in the industry at the Magic Circle. You know, I turned up as a punk,
Yeah.
for example. So I think that was more of a thing than the fact that I was a female. The fact that I turned up with a mohawk was something I had to get past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faye kind of quite quickly noticed you at the circle, I think, didn't she? And did she offer to
did.
help you, or did she just want to be your friend? I don't really know. What was the story
No, my
there?
first experience at the Magic Circle. So I became a member when I was 18. I did my exam on my 18th birthday, or very, right then, and I became a member within a few weeks of that happening. And it took me a long time to get the courage to turn up, because I didn't know anyone. I didn't know magicians, but I had been doing magic since I was 8 years old. I loved magic, but I didn't have the means or know anyone, certainly not in my family. to learn magic from. So I took the bullet, I bit the bullet, I went to the magic circle, and when I walked in, dressed the way I was, nobody spoke to me at all, and I had decided at that moment, being the kind of tearaway that I was, I thought, well, clearly this isn't for me. I have to leave. This is not where I learn magic. And as I'm walking out the door, Faye Presto was standing in the doorway, and as I'm leaving, she goes, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Laura." She went, "Why are you leaving?" I said, "Oh, well, I'm not sure this is the place for me." She said, "Don't worry about that lot in there. Come with me. I'll introduce you to the rebels," of course, in a true and usual fashion, of which she did. And from that moment onwards, we became great friends and are still great friends to this day. And, and if it wasn't for her stopping me as I walked out the door, I may never have come back. So
wow,
it was a perfect meeting, perfect timing, and a great friendship came from it. So it was great.
Well done, Faye. That's brilliant.
Yes.
So, how did you get interested in magic? What was the, way in for you?
It's a good question, because a lot of people ask me that, and it's certainly not because I knew magicians, which I didn't. My mum used to own a nightclub back when I was a kid. My mum owned one of the biggest nightclubs in London, so there was a lot of entertainment around me when I was younger, but mainly they were rock stars and people in the music industry, so it was very much part of the entertainment world, but not magic. And I loved that, and I really wanted to be a performer in some way, but I hadn't quite worked out what that was. And my mum went out with a guy for a while who is a member of the Magic Circle, and essentially he was a kids performer. He's a lovely, lovely man. He's a great family friend, and his name is Colin Frankham. And he showed me some tricks. They weren't the kind of tricks that I do now, but they were kids stuff, And I just remember being completely baffled by tricks like the run, rabbit, run, and so things like that. And that was, when I was like 8. And so, that's amazing, I'd love to do that. So it was my first experience of magic. And then, of course, David Blaine came on the TV, and I started to see magic on TV. Simon Drake as well was someone I really loved when I was a kid, because it was alternative, it was big, it was crazy, the illusions just wowed me. So that was how I got into magic, was more from seeing people like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, yes, that's it. And another really fortunate thing, I guess, was that there was this man that lived across the road from my house in Hendon, and he had a curly moustache, and he looked like a magician, and he'd be in and out of the corner shop that I was always in, and I'd say to my mum, "That man is a magician. I'm sure he's a magician." And she'd say, "No, he's not. How could you possibly know that?" And I was convinced. And one day I asked her to take me to his house. I was 12 years old. I said, "Please, take me to his house. I want to find out if he's a magician. And if he is, I want to be his assistant." Because I really, really wanted to be a magician that badly that I made my mum go to a stranger's house and ask him. And as it goes, we knocked on the door. She very embarrassingly to her, not to me, knocked on his door. And it turns out that man was George Cavari.
Oh, wow.
And George Cavari lived across the road from my house. And when she asked him, not only if he was a magician, and when she found out he was, when she asked him whether I'd be, if he'd be willing to have me as his magic assistant, he said, "She's a little bit too young," but invited me into his house, showed me magic, showed me his incredible collection of books and posters, and that was it for me. He really changed my sort of perspective on magic and how I saw it, and it was definitely the selling point. I went, "That's it, that's what I want to do."
How old were you around this time?
I was around 12 years old.
Wow, it's really young.
Yeah.
But that was it, that was the moment, and then
that was the moment when I went, "This is what I want to do." Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd always kind of dabbled in a bit of magic as a kid for fun, but that moment I went, "No, I want to be a magician."
Do you remember? You might not remember, but when you
I do. I know what you're going to say.
You know what I'm going to say?
We were on the same show together.
Laura and I, it's like 16 years ago now, were on the Disney Channel together one morning. Laura, I can't remember what you did. You did a trick, the flowers trick, I think.
I didn't know. I did the cups and balls with a plastic cup and rolled up pieces of newspaper.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I did a coin trick that was Bob Swaddling taught me, and if anyone has that footage, then
I've got that footage.
You've got that footage?
I do.
There we go.
I do. I had sort of some weird sort of hair thing going on where I had these sort of weird sort of braided plaits, loads of them in my hair, and I looked a bit odd.
After that performance, I was kept off television for about 20 years.
Yes.
But you didn't. you did lots of stuff.
No, you were brilliant.
No, it was terrible.
I don't actually remember it.
But you a little bit later on, you must have been in your early 20s, and you did playing tricks.
No, I was much younger than that.
Were you really?
No, I was just turned 18. So I'd got it when I was sort of, just at 18.
Who made this TV show?
It was a show by Endemol.
Right, okay. Well, that's a big production company.
Production company, yeah.
And it was for a Sky Channel, wasn't it?
It was for Trouble, when Trouble existed.
I remember.
The Trouble channel, yeah. And it was myself and I think it was 6 other magicians, sort of playing tricks.
So how did you feel about that? Like 17 years old, and you get the call, you're going to be on this TV series. Tell me what does that do to a 17-year-old girl? Did you ditch school, ditch college, or?
Well, I left school when I was 15. So
really?
At that particular time, I was not in school at all, and I had a boyfriend, and I'd already moved out of house. I was homeless for a very short while, and by the time I was 16, I ended up in a council flat. And I was very fortunate, because had I not had that, then I may not be here today. It saved my life. I was a pretty bad teenager.
Really?
And thankfully, having a roof over my head from the council and the various people around me was a very lucky thing. And at the time I got the TV show, I was pretty much a party girl that was constantly getting myself into trouble. So it was a real good moment for me, because it really it showed me that, maybe you can do this. Maybe you can be a magician. Maybe you don't have to be just a sort of troublesome teenager grown into an adult that does nothing with a life, which is what a lot of people thought of me, I think, when I was younger. Teachers, not my mum, thankfully. It's incredible, really, because the amount of bad things I put her through, it's incredible how supportive she was of my magic, really.
Yeah.
I think in her mind, she went, well, she's clearly not going to do anything academic. She's clearly not going to do anything normal. So she always encouraged my magic, which was a great thing. Even when I left home and school, she was still there for me.
So just to clarify, it was just your mum that brought you up?
Just my mum. My father passed away when I was 4 years old. He passed away. I didn't really know him particularly well, but he was actually a freedom fighter in his country. He was Armenian. He was brought up in Lebanon and was in the war, came over to London with my mum, and sadly, not long after that, got cancer and passed away. As a young child, you don't really remember these things, so it really never affected me as it would, say, a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old who loses a parent. At the age of 4, you don't really have much memories of that kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, just me.
So the TV series comes along, and how long did you film the TV series for? And were you involved? Was there anything creative you were involved with, or were they just giving you the trick, saying do this?
Well, yeah. Well, I probably had less experience than a lot of the others. There was one or two there was a few of us that had very, very little experience, and we were all on the same sort of level. And then there were others, people like Loki, who had been working as a magician for quite some time. So we were mixed up with people that had already been doing it, and of course, because of that, they did get priority with some of the more difficult stuff, which I think at the time I was totally okay with. But in hindsight, I'd wish that I'd stood up for myself a little bit more. Because there were times in that show where I thought, actually, I really could have done what that person was doing. Right. And I wasn't given the option, because they just assumed that I maybe couldn't have done it because of the fact that I was a novice, I was young. We were all young, but as a novice, I think I did kind of get judged a little bit more than I'd have liked. But I was just super happy to be part of a TV show at that age, and it was introducing me to other magicians, which is what I'd always wanted, because I always wanted to be a magician, but like I said, I didn't know any magicians. So this was really a great opportunity for me to meet people that were creative. And from that show, although I will say it's not a brilliant show, it really, it's not.
So it was like a magic gang show, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like...
it was a gang-style magic show where we sort of went around the streets and played tricks on the public, and of course, a very unique concept right there. And that was the premise of it. And it wasn't brilliant. But from it, I made a great friend, Clifford Bradley, who you might know from Crowdstop, who used to,
he was an illusionist.
He was an illusionist. He also used to hire out illusions from Crowdstop and things.
Yeah.
And he became a great friend, and he was a consultant as well. So over the years, although I haven't seen him for many years now, those years after that, he always helped me if I needed, advice. He was always there to give it to me, which was brilliant. And if it wasn't for that show, I wouldn't have had that.
There was another show you did, but I think it was only a show in Ireland. Is that right? The Magic Party, again, another gang show, I think.
Yes, I quite enjoyed that show. That was a good show. Again, it's one of those things that I look back on and wished I'd had a little bit more experience, or I had consultants that could have given me more of a challenge. But I really enjoyed the show, and I think the show and the series itself turned out really well. It was myself, Dynamo, I remember him. I think there was 6 of us all together, and the idea was that we each took an episode, so only one episode featured each magician, and we were teamed up with a guy called Joe. Oh God, I can't remember his name, but he's a well-known DJ in Northern Ireland, and we took over a party. That was the idea. And I took over the party of a rock band's launch of one of their albums. It was just a sort of local band, but, and it was really fun. Yeah, I really loved doing that.
Yeah. So this is the thing I want to sort of move into talking about next. You explained that you leave school at 15, you join the Magic Circle. But has this been your only job?
Yes.
So you've never done any other sort of work or bits and pieces?
That's questionable. I have done bits and pieces that I don't talk about, mainly because I can't. The only other proper job that I've had for a very short time was my mum got me a job in Hamleys. She worked in Hamleys, and when I left school and home when I was 15, at 16, she was like, well, you have to get a job, And she said, I'll get you a job in Hamleys. And I worked on the sweets counter. And it was a concession stand. And I remember meeting Bruce from Marvin's Magic and him saying,
what a hero that guy is.
Why don't you come and work for us? And at the time, I wanted to be a magician so badly. I thought, well, I'm not working for a company that sells magic to lay people. No. Of course, over time I realised that, Marvin's Magic doesn't really count as things that maybe a professional would do. But at the time I was, hell-bent against it. And I worked for the sweets counter for maybe a few weeks, and unfortunately was sacked because they found out that I wasn't old enough to work there. Because legally you needed to be 17 years old, and I was 16, and I was, and I lied to get the job, and I didn't mind at all because I didn't like it. So apart from those few weeks, I've never done anything but magic as a job.
That's amazing. So when you start your magical career and you need to make a living, what way did you market yourself? Did you get a residency? Was it a website, an agent? At the very beginning I'm talking about, what was the...
Fate had a lot to do with my beginning of that sort of thing. She gave me some fantastic advice, which was, do magic any way you can. You don't charge for it at the very beginning. You fill your diary up. Once your diary's full of gigs that involve you doing magic for sandwiches, you then start charging, say, 50 quid. And then you start charging a little bit more and more as time goes on and as that diary gets more full, which is pretty much what I did. And Faye was amazing because she pretty much gave me her act. She gave me her act. She taught me her act.
Wow.
And I performed it in places that she had organised and helped me. She allowed me to come with her to gigs, and she'd every now and then say, go and do that table over there, at her gigs, so that I could just get the experience. And over time, my first residency was with Marco Pierre White in one of his restaurants, and it was called Frankie's, and it was in Knightsbridge, and I was there every Sunday, and I was there for a good few years, from about the age of 18 right through to about 21, 22, and that's really where I honed in all my skills. I got to practice, and over that time I of course started taking the tricks that Faye had very kindly allowed me to do, that she had taught me, and I started putting my own things in there. So that was really the time where I started finding myself and learning what I wanted to do, and learning tricks that were more me and more my style of magic. So that was the first residency, and that's kind of how I got in there. And of course, off the back of that, I got gigs. I got private gigs, and very, very quickly, I think I was about 19, 20, my manager will tell you more than I can. I got a manager, and Jenny Dunster is my manager now, and she was back then. I walked into her office. It's quite a strange story. Faye was also one of the magicians that she looked after at that time. I walked into her office and I said, "Hi, my name's Laura. I've been told that you are the best manager for magicians in the country. Would you consider managing me?" She went, "Well, are you any good?" And I wasn't really. I was sort of okay, but I really wasn't brilliant by any means. But I explained to her, look, I really, really want to get good. I've become a member of the Magic Circle. I'm hoping that from that I'll meet people that will help me get better. And I'd love you to be part of that. And as we sat down that day, she starts to get to know me. I start to get to know her. And we find out this very bizarre connection. And the connection was that Jenny Dunster used to put in the entertainment to my mum's nightclub.
Oh, wow.
She also supplied the entertainment for my first birthday party. And she remembered what that was, who they were, and it was, from that moment you're like, well, this was of course meant to be.
Yeah.
And to this day, Jenny is not only my manager, she's also a great friend, and we also work together on other projects as well. We produce the cabaret at the Savoy once a month, so it became a great friendship and a great working relationship as well.
Most magicians have never had a manager, actually. The top guys do, but most haven't. Could you run your business now where it is now if you didn't have a manager? Or is she really critical to what you do and where your gigs come from?
For me, Jenny is very critical because we work brilliantly together. For example, there are some magicians, and maybe this is why, they're perfectly good at talking about money, talking about contracts, dealing with that side of things. I have a very different opinion on such things, and I think that there is something really professional about saying to a client, this is the number you call, if you want to book me. And I'm not asking them for money. I'm not talking to them about money. I don't chase people for money. And I think there is something very odd about a magician or any performer of any sort calling up a client because they haven't paid you on time to say, you owe me that money. Can you? And so instantly, without even, it always made sense to me that is not what a performer does. A performer doesn't do that. I've always had it in my head that somebody else deals with that kind of thing. So it actually was more of a surprise to me that people didn't. I couldn't believe it that people looked after their own business. I don't mind paying the commission I do to Jenny because she works damn hard to make sure that I get the best fees, I get looked after, I get good gigs, and that I think is something only a manager can do.
Yeah.
So for me it's very important.
Laura London, it's nearly half time. It is unfortunately, well, it's not unfortunately actually, this is the best bit of the whole show in my opinion. We're going to listen to some adverts from my amazing sponsors.
Gigio, free for 30 days. Be a pro, get Gigio.
Fantastic jingle. Gigio, my friends, is now available to you on a free 30-day trial. This is how it works. When someone says they want to book you, you go onto the Gigio website and you enter in the details of the booking. At one click of a button, all these things will happen. Your client will receive a confirmation by email that you are going to be at their event. They will also receive an invoice. Then Gigio will update your diary on your phone, and going forward it will track the payment for you as well. It's unbelievable! And that's why all the top professionals are using it. Go and have a look at the Gigio website. You'll see name after name after name of magicians who are subscribed to this incredible service and absolutely love it. The reason, of course, is that it saves them a lot of time. Gigio.co.uk. That's Gigio spelt GIGGIO.co.uk.
The Magicians Podcast, brought to you in association with the Magic Circle, the world's premier magical society. Are you ready to join the world's most exclusive magic club? Visit themagiccircle.co.uk to find out more.
Whether you're new to magic or a seasoned professional, Alakazam Magic are here to help. Alakazam have been supplying magic to magicians for well over 20 years. Not only do we carry all the latest and greatest magic tricks, books and DVDs, but we also manufacture one of the finest ranges of magic tricks in the world. The Alakazam name is synonymous with great customer service, educated advice and honesty. So if you're shopping for new magic, make sure you check out our website www.alakazam.co.uk or pay a visit to our fully stocked shop.
So, without question, the most stupid thing I've done on this podcast so far is in the commercial break, I ask Laura if she uses Gigio, to which she replies, I just told you I've got a manager, I don't need one. Yep, most stupid thing I've ever asked. There we go. But great sponsors, check them out. Alakazam Magic Shop as well, and of course the Magic Circle. So, Laura London, welcome back to the podcast.
Those sponsors, those adverts were brilliant.
Thank you. Yes, there we go. They are very good adverts.
Really,
and
I mean, I didn't hear them, but they were excellent.
Yeah, they'll be edited in, don't worry. You landed an amazing gig. I want to ask you about this gig. Just tell me if I'm completely wrong. You landed an amazing gig for Virgin Atlantic, and they fly you all around the world to entertain their top clients. I
did a gig at the VIP area for Bernie Ecclestone at Formula One.
Yeah.
1 year, and I was walking around, and it was a long day. It sounds extremely glamorous, but actually we were out there. It was with Ben Woodward. And Ben Woodward, another brilliant magician, very funny man. We were doing this together, and we had to get up at like 8 a.m. or something, but we were there all day. So as glamorous as it sounds, it was a very tough gig. And as I was walking around, I happened to do some magic for a group of people who worked for Virgin Atlantic. And they were there taking their clients out for a day out, to schmooze them, I guess, in some way. And as it often happens, they said, "Oh, you look brilliant." You know, I was wearing a Union flag rubber corset.
That's what I asked.
Yeah,
You look like...
Well, I used to. I mean, I don't do it anymore, but I was wearing my Union flag outfit, and I had the red hair. And
It's what you wore on Flawless?
Yes. That
right.
Same top, different. I was wearing a skirt with it. And they said, "You look great. We love what you do. Would you be interested to come work for us?" And I said, "Well, here's my card." But, you say that a lot.
Yeah.
And people say that a lot to you as well, as a performer. People are always saying, "Oh, you're brilliant, let's book you for an event." And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And it just wasn't one that I thought would come through. And within 2 days, I was booked to go to America. And that was really the start of a fantastic relationship between myself and the guys at Virgin Atlantic, because we now still work together all the time. And I'm very fortunate to be able to travel all around the world with them. And we do, essentially, we go out to various cities, and it's for them to say thank you to their biggest clients. And because it's Virgin Atlantic, I get perks, of course. I get to fly
what class do you fly? First class.
Of course. And above all, they are a fantastic company to work for, and I go all out. So now I'm actually part of the team. So when I fly out, I'm not the magician or the performer that sits in the hotel room while they set everything up, just rock up and start doing my thing, I'll be there all day. I'll help them brand the beautiful venues that we work in and make sure that we've got red and purple pillows everywhere with the Virgin logo on it and things. And because of that, I guess they see me as not just a performer, but also somebody that works well as a team, and I'm very grateful for that. They've given me my best testimonial ever.
I'm very jealous.
And they're really a wonderful company and a wonderful group of people to work for. So
I've been condemned to a life of economy travel. I know that. So that is amazing. Well done. Great gig. Okay, so sorry, I've lost my point here. Yes. So would you agree, is this your highest profile TV appearance when you did Fool Us? Is that your highest profile TV thing you've done?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, for sure.
Tell me about your experience on that show.
Well, I didn't want to do it, actually, was my experience. I turned it down 1 or 2 times, and eventually I was convinced. And I did feel a little bit like one of the reasons that they were pushing to get me on the show was because they wanted more females on the show, which I totally understand. I think it's very important to do things like that. But I wanted to do a card trick, I wanted to do close-up magic, because something people didn't realise about me was that I've always been a close-up magician that then dabbled in stage magic and cabaret. Mm-hmm. And even when I was working on the cabaret scene, which I still do very, very much, I'm still the close-up magician that works in the cabaret shows. And I really didn't want people to get the wrong idea about who I was, which in a sense is what happened ultimately. Mm-hmm. But my experience of the show, I accepted it, and I went on it, and I did my notes to walnut routine, which I knew was not going to fool them.
Yeah.
So I also knew that I was going to go on there and not fool them.
Yeah.
So the only thing you can do really is to just do the best you can and make sure that what you get out of it is good feedback, good comments, and a great piece of footage that you can then use, which I think I got. I was very happy that I was able to wear latex on Saturday night primetime TV and do what I did, and it did go well, and I was happy. There was nothing went wrong, and and so I was happy with the performance. But what I wasn't happy with was that I wasn't really showing who I was on the show. And of course exactly what I didn't want to happen happened, which was everybody ended up thinking, oh, she's a cabaret performer.
Right.
Even the magicians and lay people, Jenny would get phone calls asking if I could do the lemon trick at their event, and they don't understand how painful that is to get, to do at an event, and to prepare and to get yourself ready for. And of course, in my head, I'm just like, I just want to turn up with a deck of cards and do my thing. So I did end up doing quite a lot of cabaret spots off the back of it, which I now don't do. But no, overall, I had a great experience, and the people that worked on the show were lovely. So,
how long did it take to prepare that bowl of lemons?
Prepare? You don't prepare the lemons. What are you talking about? I didn't prepare anything. All I can tell you is that, mentally preparing for it took me a few days.
A few days. Now I know you're involved in an amazing project with Richard McDougall and a few other people. A project called Breathe Magic, which I know is also very close to your heart as well.
Very much so.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? For people who haven't heard about it?
Yes, Breathe Magic is maybe one of the best things I've ever been a part of. Breathe Magic is an organisation that takes magic to help essentially children that have hemiplegia. But I say essentially because now it's been taken to other areas, which is amazing. But it was there to help children that had a condition in which one of their hands didn't work as well as their other. And that's because between the ages of 0 and 2, they'd had a sort of stroke or a brain injury of some sort, which meant that one side of their body was affected. Now they can use both hands, they can, but various things have stopped them from exercising. For example, parents think that cutting their food up and doing everything for them, is something that you do. But actually, encouraging them to use their hands is always going to be the best therapy. So magic we use to engage them, because magic is amazing for anyone. Any child wants to learn magic. So that's what's amazing about using it as therapy, because there isn't anybody that doesn't want to learn magic. But you have to use both hands for everything. There is no trick that they learn that involves just one hand.
Right.
For example, the television box, they have to put it behind their back, and they have to take the lid off, and they have to take the dice out, and all of those things involve two hands. And the rewards you get from it is to see these children in just 2 weeks, which is what we do. We just do 2 weeks of this camp, go from, say, not being able to tie their shoelaces to being able to tie their shoelaces. And that seems very minor to us, but actually it's a massive thing to them.
Yeah. Especially
when they're between 10 and 16 years old, it's something everyone can do at that age, you'd think. But actually it's not. To be able to open a packet of crisps, or for girls to be able to tie your hair up, are things that they've always found challenging. And although we use the magic, one of our main goals is really to help them achieve the things that they want to do, which are things like, I want to tie my shoelace, I want to put my hair up. And so it's a great privilege to watch them.
You have to be quite patient though. You're actually sat teaching them the magic. Is that you're performing it and then teaching it? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we don't perform as magicians, so we make a point of not being the magician there. We're there to teach them the tricks that they're going to learn. So, it's very much we take a step back and make sure that everything is about them. And patience doesn't come into anything if what you're doing is enjoyable. And it's really enjoyable. So you will easily be patient and enjoy the experience, which we all do. And now we also take breathe magic to, for example, adults who've had strokes, which has been a great success. Other areas, troubled children and just anyone that wants to learn it really is something we want to help with. So
how much of your time are you investing in this?
The magicians themselves, our time is spent at the camps, not just the 2 weeks, but also we spend one day a month after that for several months continuing the therapy. But there is a team of amazing people, like Yvonne Farquhar, who heads it, who spends every single day of her life dedicated to it, as there are more. We have an incredible team of people that dedicate their entire lives to breathe. Nice. So actually myself, Will Houston, David Owen, Richard McDougall, in comparison, we spend less time, but the time that we do spend, we'd spend more if we could. I can tell you that. If we could do it all year round, we would. Yeah. But of course we have to also work and make a living. But yeah, I can safely say that for all of us, it's one of the best things we do all year.
I know you've been doing this amazing project, London Presents. You had Guy Hollingworth a few weeks ago. His amazing coup, is that a word? I think it is. Tell us a bit about London Presents.
Well, we live in a great city, and of course we have the Magic Circle, which have lectures, but I wanted to do something in which we could have people from all around the world that could give you a really intimate experience. And I do it here at the Hippodrome. In fact, we're sat in the room that Guy was in just the other week. It's only 15 people, so it's a really intimate experience where you can really, really learn from some of the best in the world. And we've had Danny Dortez, Christian Engblom, Alex Pandrea, of course Guy Hollingworth 2 weeks ago, which was incredible. They're all incredible, and we got some amazing ones to come. And the reason I do it is not for me, it's not for money. I make nothing out of it in that sense. I do it for the love of what I do. And I think it's really important that if any of us love what we do, whether it's magic, music, or anything, we also give something back. And that's kind of my thing. It's my thing of, this is an opportunity that not only the 15 people that come along can have, but it's one that I can have too. And it's one I've always wanted because I live in a great city and I felt that it was missing. So I tried to do it and bring it to the people or anyone that wants to see it. And as it goes, it does pretty well. So, and we've got some amazing ones coming up as well, so keep an eye out for it.
It was really great watching you perform downstairs earlier and seeing sort of, how you interact with people, and people love you and they come over and you had a big group around you. But the thing I was interested to notice is that you just do card tricks, actually, and you literally have very minimal props. I think you literally a deck of cards and a pen. But you mentioned earlier, of course, that Faye taught you her act. I want to know when the decision came to switch your act to sort of just mainly cards, and why you made that decision.
I'd always tried to find myself. Since I'd started magic, it was one of those things where I was trying to find out who I was. What kind of magician are you? There are so many different areas in magic. You can be a mentalist, you can be a stage magician, a cabaret performer, a comedy magician. And I'd always kind of dabbled in all of it. For example, I did a cruise ship where I did an hour and a half of mentalism.
Wow.
And I was a mentalist at that particular time. And I tried out everything, and I never ever felt comfortable on stage. Never. It was something I was, I think it's a feeling, isn't it? When you're doing something, you have to enjoy it. And I didn't enjoy doing some of the things that I'd been doing, like stage magic and that kind of thing. And cards was the one thing I'd always loved. Since I was a kid, it was the card tricks that I wanted to do. And when I was a kid, I didn't have any means to learn, so I didn't really know how to. Faye, of course, when I met Faye, she wasn't particularly a cardist. She did pretty much tricks that didn't involve lots of technical stuff, but she did a lot of different things. So she wasn't the one to teach me. So I never was in a position to learn, really. And I started really taking it seriously after an audition. It's a weird thing. I did this audition and I didn't get it. And it was, I'm not going to say what the audition was, but lots of people went to this audition. And everyone just made this assumption that I'd had it in the bag. And the reason I'd had it in the bag was because they were looking for personality and image. And I thought, well, I've got that. And it was an arrogant thing to think, really. When I didn't get it, it made me take a look at what I was doing. And maybe these people who auditioned me, they knew who I was. Maybe it was that they just saw me and they were expecting a little bit more. Or they were expecting someone who was a little bit more sure of themselves. So I went back and went, right, what do I want to do? And I went, I want to do card stuff. And I also made great friends at that time, people like Daniel Madison, who is one of my best friends.
So when was this, Laura? When was this sort of transition?
This was about, I guess, 3 years ago.
Right.
Where I really took it seriously.
So this was just after Flawless then, when you were...
Yeah. It was
when
just
what you said was happening, when people were asking you to do things you really didn't want to do.
Exactly. It was around that time when I just kind of went, what do I want to do? I want to do card tricks. They said, we don't want a card trick. We want you to do this.
Yeah.
And I was trying to become this card magician. Then I met people who were brilliant and helped me, recommended stuff. I then read everything. I really did. I read Expert at the Card Table, any book on card magic, especially gambling stuff I was particularly into. And I started to learn sleight of hand card magic. And what happened was I fell in love with it. The passion that I had for the books that I'd read, like Guy Hollingworth's book, Drawing Room Deceptions, suddenly it was like this explosion inside me where I finally found my passion again. Because I had the passion for magic and I lost it. And I lost it because I really didn't like what I was doing, really. I could do my act with my eyes shut and I was boring myself.
So it had just become a job.
It had become a job, but actually magic was everything to me. So I was like, where is this passion? And reading these books and learning these card tricks, and especially the sort of more difficult sleight of hand stuff, I found my passion again. For example, I never practiced at home. I didn't need to practice at home. My act worked. It worked brilliantly. I didn't need to change anything. Now I found something that I had to practice. I woke up in the morning with this real need to pick up a deck of cards and learn how to false shuffle, and since that day I've never changed. Every morning, every single day since, for the last 3 years, I've never not had a deck of cards in my hands, and I've never not had a day where I haven't practiced something, even if it's something that I do all the time.
Was that the reason you entered the Magic Circle stage Close-Up Magician of the Year?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I entered.
So you amazed a lot of people that night because I don't know what people were expecting, but what you did was not what they were expecting.
Yeah.
You were doing...
That was kind of why I did it, yeah.
You're doing deals and all sorts.
Yeah, no, I would never enter a competition. It's not my sort of thing. It's not that I don't need to. I just, for me, it wasn't my thing. And the reason I entered was because I was learning how to bottom deal, second deal, Greek deal, and I was absolutely fascinated by these things. Now, I needed to put together an act, but I had nowhere to perform it because I can't perform it at work, because actually all the residencies and the places that I work, no one really wants to see me sat at a card table with a close-up mat doing these kind of demonstrations. So I thought, well, if I put myself forward for a competition, I now have a date of which I have to get this act as ready as possible.
Ah, deadline.
And it was a deadline. And so that was what it was. It wasn't to win at all. I had no, in my head, it wasn't about that at all. It was all about, I've now got 4 months or 3 months or however long it is, I've got this time. If I can't do this act by then I'm still going to have to do it because they've accepted my application and they've, and I've got through. So just to get through that first stage was amazing. I had no choice. And I did it. And when I walked out of there, I didn't get placed, but I achieved everything I wanted to, which was, yes, to surprise everybody. I remember James Friedman said something, and I'll never forget it. As you do the competition, you walk in the room afterwards and you sit in the front row of the circle while they announce the winners. And he stood up on the balcony and he said, "You've got more balls than anyone in this room." And yes, I'd done a deck switch in front of I did a deck switch in front of Guy Hollingworth, who was one of the judges. I did consecutive bottom deals in front of not only Guy Hollingworth, but a camera that was streaming live into a theatre. And I was really proud that I'd really done that. And I know that, yeah, of course, cameras, you can't really get away with very much. And I didn't expect that people were going to be fooled by what I'd done. But I think people were certainly surprised that I'd put that much effort into something, and I think that was more important to me than winning or getting placed at all.
You talked a lot about Faye, and one of my favourite bits of the interview I did with Faye was when she was talking about a few of the performances she did for royalty. And I know that you've performed for Prince Charles.
I have.
How did that come about? What was it like? Are you a royalist? Did it make you a bit nervous performing?
No, actually, I am a massive royalist. So,
right, okay.
When I was 19 years old, I don't know if I was 19, but it was around then. I did the 80th birthday for the Queen's 80th birthday, and it was not for her particularly, but it was in her gardens, and they had a big show. Jonathan Ross was doing the stage show, and I was one of the many performers that were working her grounds, and they'd invited children from schools and things, and I was so proud to do that. And it really annoyed me that there were a lot of performers there that were really anti-royals, because I don't understand why you take a job if you were really anti anything, really. And so that was the one thing I was like, that was my best gig ever, until I got a phone call from the wonderful Etienne Pradier, who does a lot of gigs for the royal family, and he said, "Would you like to do one?" And for me, yes, there is no question. It was without a doubt one of the highlights to this day of my life. Prince Charles, who I've now performed for twice because of Etienne and doing what I do. He's a wonderful man to perform for. He loves magic. Prince Charles is a massive fan of magic, and really he's one of the best spectators anybody could ask for. So yeah, it was a real privilege.
What did you do for him? What trick did you do?
I did I did a sort of ambitious card to box type routine. Yeah.
Oh, your card to box is brilliant. If you know Laura, you meet Laura, get her to show you this tiny, tiny, subtle detail that she does with her card in box routine. Absolutely brilliant. Fooled me badly when I saw it. Can I talk about your look for a little bit? Because you've got an amazing look, and you've always had, even when we were on the Disney Channel 15 years ago, 14, 16 years ago, whatever it was, you already had. Do you prefer to call it pink or red? I don't know what the. Well, I don't know.
I'm so close to cutting this short.
I'm a bit colourblind, so I'm not 100% sure. You know,
it's red.
It's red, right?
It's red. If it's pink, it just means it needs to be dyed.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay. You have someone look after this for you, I assume.
I do.
You're not doing it yourself.
I have a hairdresser, yes.
your look is awesome.
Oh,
is it
thank you.
still a big part of your act as you see it? Are you always looking for
It's
new...
not a big part of my act, but it's a big part of who I am. What people don't realise is that, I was saying that when I came to the Magic Circle I was a punk,
Yeah.
What the Laura London you see is actually just a very toned down version of what I was, actually. Because when I was younger, when I was like 15, 16, in fact, when I was 13 in school, I had dyed hair. And then as I sort of 15, 16, as I left school, I started dyeing my hair more and more, but red was always the colour that I chose, and with all these various different crazy hairstyles. And as time went on, I just sort of started to make it a little bit more, I guess, acceptable to just anybody. So I wasn't typecast as alternative. So although I was kind of alternative and I liked I was certainly a bit of a rock chick and things like that, I didn't want to be an alternative magician like some do.
Yeah.
I wanted to do the black tie events and the corporate events and all of those things that maybe you can't do if you typecast yourself as an alternative magician.
Yeah.
So the only thing really I kept was the colour, the hair. Was never going to change that. That was never going to change. So yeah, this isn't an image for my magic. This is just just an extension of who I am.
I see. Can you tell us a little bit about the tattoo club?
No.
You're not allowed to talk about that?
Well, the 52.
Is that what it's called?
The
So you have the King of... I can't see it. Is it the King of Diamonds?
the King of Diamonds, yes.
You have it tattooed on your hand. Are you allowed to... Is it, or is this like Fight Club? You're not allowed to talk about
It's
Fight
a little
Club?
bit like Fight Club, yeah.
Is it?
We'll go with that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't talk about the 52.
No problem.
All I will say is that everyone will know what it is very soon.
That's exciting. And we're coming towards the end, so we're going to talk about the future. Because I heard a little rumour, because I'm a broadcast journalist, basically, doing this in my head. I heard a rumour you are currently writing a show. And you're going to be doing a show soon. So
Maybe.
you're a close-up magician. First of all, am I right?
Yes.
So you're writing a show. Can you tell us anything about that show, just to get us excited about it?
Maybe. Yes, there is a show that I'm writing. It's about a female card cheat from the 1920s who I find extremely fascinating. She wasn't a magician. She was a card cheat, a genuine card cheat who swindled people out of their money. And I found it an extremely fascinating story. And with that, I created a show. The show is just me doing demonstrations and talking about her and telling her story, which I think the world should know. So it's me doing card stuff and gambling demonstrations, and I hope to be doing it very, very soon for you all to see if anyone's interested.
This is amazing. That's very exciting. Thank you for sharing that with us. Laura, thank you so much for doing this. It's been really, really great fun. If you ever get a chance to see Laura doing close-up magic in the Hippodrome here, come and see it and keep an eye out for that show. Hopefully coming very soon. Laura London, thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura, for your time. It was great chatting to you. If you've never had a look at Laura's website, go and have a look right now. It's laura.london. Yep, no .com or .co.uk, just laura.london. I've no idea how that works, but it's brilliant. She also has a great Instagram account, and she's on Twitter at Miss London Magic. Laura has also released a card in bottle effect, which fooled me badly when I saw it. It's available right now through Illusionist. Go and check it out. After I turned the microphone off, Laura told me a little bit more about the show which she mentioned that she's currently working on. It sounds fantastic, completely original, so if you see it in a venue near you in the near future, make sure you go and see it. Like I said, it sounds fantastic. Thanks very much for tuning in. There will, of course, be another new episode of the Magicians Podcast next Friday. I will see you then. Have a great week. Bye-bye.